What's up, guys? So I'm gonna have Zain Jan as a CEO of BetterEarth as a guest today. He came from being a rep to running a team to running an install sales company, running to be a top 10 in the first 5 years of business. Super awesome dude. Highly recommend to listen to it. Follow him on Instagram, Zain Jan as well, and obviously give us a follow as well. But enjoy the show. Thanks, man. So Zane, could you do us like a quick rundown of who you are, and then we kind of take off from there?
For sure. So my name's Zain Jan. I'm the CEO of a company called BetterEarth Solar. We're one of the largest residential solar companies in the United States. We're top 10. We have hundreds of employees. Over the last 4 years in business, we've done over $400 million in revenue. So we've been able to scale pretty quickly. I come from a very humble background. My parents were both immigrants. They migrated to this country when I was less than 1 year old. And as I grew up in a very tough environment. My parents, worked off of government assistance. They used to get, different types of government assistance for housing and stuff like that. So I grew up in a pretty tough neighborhood. Also, I just wasn't proud about the way my upbringing was because my parents had to, get support from the government, and that's never fun. So we did that. My dad was a taxi driver. My mom worked in layaway stores, making not really much money, like Marshalls in the back room, because she didn't speak English. So we never had much money. Then as I grew up, I decided I didn't want to go to college. I went because my mom had a crisis where she almost died, and her lifelong dream was me going to college. I ended up going to college, went there for a year, decided it wasn't for me, ended up dropping out. Throughout that period of time, I had sold a lot of drugs. I had gotten in trouble. I had nearly been arrested many times. I was doing drugs, so I was just in a very bad place. At the age of 20, I realized that I had my whole life in front of me, and I had up until this point probably lived the life of someone that was 40 or 50 that made all the bad decisions just because of how many bad decisions I made and how quickly I grew up on the street. Then at the age of 20, I made a decision to go fully sober, never touch a drug again, never drink. And from that point on, I got into business and I got obsessed with business. And that was right around the time when I was getting into the solar industry. I was learning about the business. I was understanding the business, door knocking, making money through the solar industry, working at another company. I made over six figures, realized that the money was real. That led me to go work at a company, which was a startup. I later became a chief revenue officer of that startup. Then after building that startup for 3.5 years to a eight-figure business, I decided to leave and start BetterEarth Solar as the CEO. And yeah, the rest is history. We're under 5 years in. We've done over $400 million in revenue, and we are scaling. We're currently the 10th largest in the nation for residential solar.
Wow, yeah, that's a lot on the one little minute they just spilled.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so going back,
I've done, I've done I've done so many interviews, and sometimes I go longer into it and I describe it in detail. But at this point, I feel if you just search my name on YouTube, you'll hear the story anyway. So I like getting into other tactical things, but I
yeah,
figured I'd you know get it down
it's
into like
such
a 60
you're
minute
you're
section.
approaching like Shaq. Google me.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
That's cool, dude. So you said immigrants. Obviously, I'm from Ukraine too, so we kind of have similar background too. I migrated here obviously when I was older, but similar situation as you. And you came with parents that obviously come from working class. Entrepreneur is not very common, I assume.
Yeah,
So what?
yeah,
Why
yeah.
did
No,
you? Why did you go through that route? I know you started a little bit, so you started selling stuff when you were in college, and so that kind of intrigued you,
yeah.
right?
Honestly, I started selling. I sold drugs in high school. I tried selling other things as well, like energy drinks and whatnot. I did club promoting, kept selling drugs. I sold real estate, cars. I've tried selling everything, and all of that was like by the age of 18. So at this point, I sold so many different products. I'd even like went to sell things that were legal, but because I was under 18, I couldn't sell those products. So I would forge my ID and my name. So I would get an account and I would actually be able to deposit money and sell in an opportunity where, you had to be 18 and even though I was 16 and 17. So, man, I tried every hustle in the book in the game to make money at a very young age. And dude, I even had a time when I was 17 years old where same thing, I lied for like a permit and I got a permit to ride a bike where you would bring people on the back of the bike, like one of those trolleys in the city.
Uh-huh.
And I
Oh,
got
okay.
money to do that. I did that for one day, and I realized that it wasn't for me, and I'd rather sell drugs and do other things because I could make way more money. So man, I did all the wrong, unethical things, and what's ironic about that is I grew up in an extremely ethical household. My parents never touched a drug in front of me. They never drank a single sip of alcohol in front of me. My parents never stole anything. My parents never even swore. Like they were super ethical, religious individuals, and here I was, the black sheep of the family, just going out there and doing all the wrong things. But the one common denominator between everything I did was I was always selling myself or selling something, right? I was always in this idea of I'm going to go into the marketplace, find a product at a lower price, sell it to someone at a higher price, and make the delta margin in between. And as I did that, I just learned that that's business. You have to be able to sell yourself. You have to be able to go prospect and find people. So when I got into actual sales, like something legitimate like solar, it was easy for me because I had all this experience already going out there and not literally, but figuratively knocking on doors, selling myself, selling a product. And in solar is the same thing. I would sell something at a higher price and I would make the delta and margin in between from what the commission was with the company. So that's exactly what I did. I got into door to door, and I didn't know that I was going to be an entrepreneur. I always thought in the back of my mind, one day I'm going to build something big. But at that time, I had no bigger aspirations than being a top salesperson at a Fortune 500 business, making a lot of money, becoming an executive in that space, earning equity in stock, and then maybe one day pursuing my own dreams of being an entrepreneur. But what happened in that business, which I think you were in as well, which was Solar City, was it scaled. There was a lot of turmoil and frustration that was happening and a lot of disarray in the organization because they were making a merger with Tesla. Then Tesla ended up acquiring them. There was a lot of back and forth. They switched back and forth from W-2 to 1099. And then they went into this whole like, yeah, we might shut down the whole door knocking team. So I saw that through chaos. I believe there's always opportunity. I found an opportunity to go work at a startup during that period of time in California. I lived in Boston. I moved from Boston to California, never sold solar before on the West Coast, sold for the first time working for a startup, built that startup up, recruited 50 to 100 sales reps. We started growing and scaling. We were doing over 100 a month. And we were an installer as well. They gave me the position of chief revenue officer. They granted me stock within the business, and we continued to grow. And as we grew, I realized there was a big missing piece in the industry, which was there wasn't many people that understood sales really well and that understood installations really well. And I was like, if we could put those two things together and be the first to dominate and disrupt this industry just by understanding the business at a ground level, well, we can do things that are very different. Because up until this point in the industry, it was a lot of people that were just installers that never had maybe worked in the home with the customer or never really understood the customer dynamic. Or it was people in finance who were great at building the business, were great at understanding how the money worked, and looking at the business from a spreadsheet level, but they never were on the ground or in the field. So they didn't understand the human aspect of the business. So I was like, I have an advantage. I understand business pretty well. I understand the customer and everything at the ground level, and I'm partnered with people that understand construction and installation. So as I saw that, I learned the whole business and I said, it's finally time for me to go and do this. I've learned all the moving parts. I've built a construction business. I've sold. I've built business at a pretty high level. Now I need to go and I need to put these things together and build something without anything stopping me. And that's where Better Earth was created and formed with that mission and vision of we need to go and we need to create a system and a process that is going to be the best for the ground level experience all the way up to the business. The business needs to be profitable or else we won't keep doing it and it won't be around for a long time. The quality needs to be really good or customers will not like our product. And the sales experience needs to be really great or salespeople won't want to sell with us. And when you can do one, two, and three, you really start to go from being just like every other solar company to what I call a moat in business. A moat is, something Warren Buffett always talks about. A moat is essentially like a castle and it's surrounded by this bay of water and no one can really get in because it's hard to get in. You want a moat business model, a business model that's hard to beat. And I know there's a lot of people with a lot of money out there that could put a lot of money into solar, but that wouldn't ensure that they understood the construction experience, the customer experience, and the sales experience, because you really need to be in at a ground level to understand that. So I believe that Better Earth, we are building a moat within the solar industry where our competitive advantage is really leading with a different strategy than others. And that's simply by us understanding the business a little bit better than a lot of our competitors, we
Yeah, I
believe.
think I think it helps a lot because you come from sales industry first, which is unique. Because a lot of times installers start from constructive, like as a construction worker or something in that trade first. They figure out how to do mechanical things, but not necessarily how to sell the job or what it takes to get the job. I think it's unique to working with you guys. I've experienced that too. Um, why start a company though? That's a question because obviously people in our industry, people are like solar is so saturated. I don't know if there's space for me. That's the reason people don't get into solar now, which is obviously we both know it's a mistake. But for you, when you had an opportunity running a team, you had a team. Why not bond with some company, teach them how to do it versus starting your own? Why'd you do that?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just I was working at other companies. I was a part of other opportunities already, and it was just the right place and the right time for me, honestly. Again, like I never started a business out of ego. I started a business out of necessity. Man, if that first company I worked at was great and nothing ever changed in the structure and I could keep moving up, I'd probably still be there.
Mm,
I'd honestly probably wouldn't have started my own business because again, I didn't start a business out of wanting to like have
yeah,
control. I actually understood at a really young age that just because you start a business doesn't mean you're going to make more money. There's a lot of people that work in a company that make way more money than people that own a
yeah,
business because a business has a lot more risk, a lot more responsibility. And at the first company we were at, which was Solar City, I saw an opportunity to make over $1 million a year, and I was like, "That's more than 99% of business owners, right? So why wouldn't I go and just do that there?" Have the security of being at a big company and be able to learn because at the time again I'm in my early 20s, so I have all the time in the world in front of
yeah,
me, and then just things didn't go planned out there, right? And it wasn't because it didn't go planned out for me, it was their change in business model, so I was forced to adapt. Went worked at another company, same exact thing. They promoted me to chief revenue officer. I was a C level, earned equity in the business, saw how much money I could make, and then same thing. That business pivoted. They made some of the decisions that I didn't agree with. And I didn't see another opportunity out there to go work at a company where I felt like there was a good customer experience, there was good sales experience, and it was a profitable, good business. I just didn't see it
mm,
out there. So I was like, am I just going to go and work at a subpar company and keep running into the same experience over and over again, or I'm going to learn from my mistakes? They always say uh, fool me once, shame on
yeah,
you. Fool me twice, it's a shame on
yeah,
me, right? Well, that's how I felt. I was like, okay, fool me once, it's a shame on you, but fool me twice, it's a shame on
yeah,
me.
yeah.
And I saw that in business over and over again. I worked at different company after different company, and I saw things weren't changing, and I didn't see anyone doing it well in the industry. So I said, this is the only reason I have to do it because there's a problem and no one else is willing to solve it,
Yeah.
right? It's like if you look at an ocean and you see a shark in there and you see a baby falls off into the ocean and there's a shark there, there's going to be a big group of people that are just looking at that shark and looking at that baby and not doing anything about it other than sitting there in chaos. And there might be one brave soul that jumps in and saves the baby because there's a problem at hand and that's their instinctual kind of reaction. So for me, it's the same exact thing. I didn't want to be the person that jumps into the ocean with the shark, but I was willing to do it if no one else I felt was willing to truly solve the problem. And that's what it's led to. And to be completely honest, man, like I could have not started a business years ago and I probably could have made just as much, if not more money doing other things because I've had the skill sets to actually make money and go out into the business world and succeed. And there's so many opportunities out there. There's a plethora of opportunities. But again, my focus wasn't after the money. It wasn't building a business to say, I have this big business. We're so big. We have employees. We make all this money. Like, that's never the reason I built a business. I built a business so that I could have control and I could actually solve a problem
Mm,
because I felt like a problem existed.
yeah. Well, the one thing I was gonna say from my experience working with you guys, it's you one of the few, if not the only one, actually majority of your focus, and I'm obviously part of the conversations on the inside, is how to make experience better for the homeowner. Most of the companies in the industry, and I think maybe that's the angle too. pamper their sales reps, everything for the sales reps, everything about sales reps, but they forget why solar exists in the first place, because of homeowners. So, what are the challenging things that you face? Obviously, you guys grew really fast within the first 5 years. You number 10 or up to first 10, right? Top 10. Um,
Yeah.
what helps you and motivates you to evolve and get better?
Yeah, I would say what motivates me every day is there's a problem every day to be solved. And I know I can go and I can solve that problem. And what's really unique to me is I always thought when I got into business that problems would actually get easier and that it wouldn't be hard to solve them. And that when the business started, it would be the hardest and it would get streamlined and easier as we went on. It was the complete opposite, man. Like, I'm jealous of the first days of our business. Things were actually really easy back then, in my opinion. Today, they're like 10 times harder. And as you get bigger, you get more responsibility. And as you grow, just more things come up, right? Like naturally, by law of averages, if you're doing hundreds of millions in revenue, if you've hired, over 1,000 people, if you have thousands of sales reps that are contracted through you, you're going to have legal lawsuits. You're going to have liability. You're going to have people that like you. You're going to have people that love you. You're going to have people that hate you, right? You're going to have customers that are extremely happy. You're going to have customers that maybe aren't happy. So there's so many different things that can happen on a daily basis. And the thing that you have to keep building on in order to keep going is mental fortitude and the ability to not be subjective. It's really easy to get subjective when you're building in business. Really easy to get emotional, get worried about what someone says about you, get worried about what happens with a customer, get worried about an employee, get worried about a friend in the business. These are things that are really easy naturally as humans that we get emotional about. And as a business owner, you have to be objective and you have to be able to stay even keel so that when there is chaos, when there is disarray and everyone's panicking and freaking out, you're able to hold your cool and you're able to be calm. And throughout that, you'll end up finding what the true answers are and how to solve the problem. So today, what motivates me is continuing to go through the problems as the business gets bigger, continuing to learn how to manage and build it and be better because I'm not perfect. And every day I strive to be better. Like when we first got BetterEarth to $50 million, that was the first time I ran a $50 million company. When we first got BetterEarth to 100 million, that was the first time I ran a $100 million company. When we first got BetterEarth to 150 million, first time I ran a $150 million business. So as we grow and evolve each year, it's my first time doing that, right? So I'm learning and I'm gaining the experience. And what I'm really excited about is, my plan is to build BetterEarth forever. But if one day I'm not building BetterEarth and I'm building something else, I'll have had so much amazing experience and years where I gained wisdom, where I've truly just learned how to do it. And that to me is the biggest blessing in being able to build the
Yeah.
business.
Yeah, I think the setbacks is obviously the biggest lessons. A lot of times it would can't really progress if you don't fall, right? So that from you guys in working with you, I've seen a lot of changes that you guys implemented from experience that we've had. Um, and it's tough industry to complement the sales and the installers. So thank you very much for sticking with it. By the way, for paving the way for those who are start to neglect things, as we know we're running to those guys nowadays. But
Yeah.
from a personal perspective, like how do you think um, negative experiences in your life boosted you to the point where you obviously you had to have a positive perspective in order to be where you at, even going through the situations that you went through. I do believe that on Earth people go through hell as well, and some people lean into and believe. Like a lot of my friends growing up, poor poor orphan, poor me, nobody cares, and they gave into that mentality, and as a result, it chewed them up to the point where they couldn't help themselves, right? Um, and there's other side where people stay optimistic and positive, and they draw positivity where it helps them to progress and get better. So, from your perspective, how did that mentally? How did that come to you? Like, what? How did you draw that?
Yeah. Yeah. I would say biggest thing for me, man, is negativity is always going to exist. It's really easy to have that victim mentality where you're like, poor me, I was dealt bad cards. I'm this because of my color. I'm this because I'm an immigrant. I'm this because my language. Like people come up with all the excuses in the world to say that they're underprivileged, and I think it's absolutely BS. Like I don't believe in it. I really think it's fake. I think you create the narrative for your future. And the more you can just focus and put your energy on the things you can control, the more success you're going to have. Listen, I could not control my genetic limitations. I could not control the skin of my color. I could not control who my parents were. I could not control the family I was born into. These were things that no matter what I do, they were out of my control. What I can control in life isn't where I start, but it's the distance that I travel and the time that I'm here on planet Earth. And it's the impact that I create. So, yeah, man, if you grew up in a tough neighborhood, it's your job to figure out how to operate in that tough neighborhood and then get into a better neighborhood and maybe one day find an opportunity to make more money, whatever it may be. If you grow up with no connections, no money, no skill set, you grow up with dyslexia, whatever it may be, these are all things that are limitations that were placed upon you unwillingly. It doesn't mean that you can't go and fix those things or you can't improve those things or you can't put yourself into a better situation. So now, and it's really from the beginning of time all the way until today, I've learned I just have to put emphasis on the things that are in my purview and in my control. And the more attention and energy I put onto those things, the less I'm going to sit there and worry about things of the past. I think the worst thing one individual can do is sit there and just think about their problems. Because if you sit there and think about your problems, if you just think about it, it's so destructive to you because there's nothing productive that's happening. When you're sitting there thinking about your problems, you're not thinking of a solution. You're just sitting there pondering and worrying in fear. That's why over time and over the years, I built a little method where I would catch myself every time I was thinking about my problems. And I would stop myself. I would take out a notebook, I would take out a pen, and I would force myself to write a solution. That's it. Every time until today, I have a problem. I do not think about it. I take out a notepad, I take out a pen, and I start working out solutions. Because the only way logically that you can ever improve a problem is by bringing a solution to it. And I know the minute that I start pondering on the negative side of it, I'm just going to be destructing and destroying my morale, my energy, and what I believe in something. But if I'm able to actually pen to paper put a solution in place and then go and execute that solution, my confidence level goes up. And when you've done that hundreds and hundreds of times over and over and over again, it starts to just become an innate natural ability where you just know how to solve problems, right? Instant a problem comes up, you go into solution mode. You don't go into, oh well, poor me and this sucks
So it's like
and
you
what
train
if
your
this and
mind.
that.
You train your mind to just more of be like looking for solutions rather than dwell on a problem. Yeah. So I mean,
Yeah, exactly. And when you that, it's like anything is possible.
right. Yeah. Well, I believe that too because so I have two rules for myself. So one of them is guard your mind with positive reinforcement. So if it's not if it's negative, don't want it. Right. So that's from people. That's from things that I'm around, music, podcasts, anything to do with. If it makes me better, great. I'm on all in. I'm a sucker for good. But at the same
Yep.
time, if it's something that harms me and I know that, and if I can't influence that in the sense of redirect it, I want to get rid of it. And second part is
Yep.
not drawing conclusions. I think you and I both know, like a lot of times people get in the industry, they draw conclusions. They suck at sales. The door knocking sucks. Rain sucks. Company sucks. Everything sucks, but nothing personal accountability comes to them. So I think it's like having your mindset. I like that a lot because you focus more on. It may not be as good as they need to be, but there's a way to get there. And so you draw it down, start working on that. So I think that's probably
Love it.
why you guys keep progressing rather than kind of plateauing like a lot of companies start to. Um,
Yeah, 100%.
yeah, I mean, so how do you find people that believe in the same thing that you do? Because obviously that's part of that is so you can be as strong as an ox when it comes to this, but being beat up by a lot of negative people around negative influences, especially in our industry, it can eat up on you, right? So how do you find people that
Sure.
believe and reinforce your belief too? Like how do you surround yourself with people like that?
Yeah, we just say through actions, man. Like when you are doing the right actions and you are doing the right things, people will naturally come into your life. If you're being honest, you're being ethical, you're not cheating, you're not lying, you're not stealing, eventually over time you will build a good reputation. People will hear good things about you, and then they're going to want to work with you. And naturally, you're going to start to attract those people. It's really not a convoluted or complicated answer, if I'm being completely real. Just do the right things every day. If you do the right things, you show up, you're a man or woman of your word, you say exactly what you're going to do and you do it, people will end up attracting to you and they'll want to come work with you because they're going to see that you are someone that whenever you say you do something, you actually follow through with it. And people want to work with action takers and people who speak their mind and do what they say they're going to do. People hate working with individuals that say what they're going to do and then go back on their word. So to me, it's really as simple as just being a man or woman of integrity, leading from the front, talking about your vision, promoting your vision, and people will just come naturally into your life. I haven't done anything special for that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can tell it too because the team that you guys have, you always innovate too. So you have to kind of sift through with anybody who is not aligned. It's part of that
Yeah,
refinement too because
exactly.
you have a vision. So what's next for Better Earth? What do you guys intend to do?
We just want to continue to scale. I think for us at this point in our business, we are very much so just focused on continuing to separate ourselves from the competition. We think solar is what's called a red ocean, and we want to build a blue ocean. We want to build something that is very different from all of our competitors. So every day we are maniacally focused on how can we improve process, improve the margins within our business so we can reinvest back into building a better customer experience and continue to innovate within the space. We really think over the next 12 to 24 months, we will keep separating ourselves from our competition. And our real end goal here is to get to a place with residential solar where there is no one like us or no one that can offer an installation experience like us. And if that's the case, as you know, in this industry, there is no shortage of people that want to work with you or sell through you if you have the best business built in place already. So that's really step one. Step two beyond that is we believe that there's a lot of value in ancillary industries such as HVAC, such as roofing, and things that are very similar to solar. And we believe that we can build lifetime value beyond just giving the customer solar. And if we can accomplish step number one, which is building the best experience for the customer, and they truly have a good feeling and are really wowed and shocked by the experience that Better Earth provided to them, there's no reason that they wouldn't want to go and continue to purchase products in the future that add to the efficiency of their home. And if you do that, you build a stronger lifetime value. You build a stronger value proposition. You build more margin for your business. So it's not only a win for the customer, but it's a win for the business too, and and the enterprise value of the business long term. Yeah, I mean, I think yeah, it was a really cool collab with Mr. Beast. We did that with Give Power Foundation. Really, really cool, kind of once in a lifetime opportunity. I think over 25 million people have watched that video. We went to a small island in Colombia. We installed solar, a microgrid. That place also just had no clean water. They didn't have access to refrigeration, being able to store their food over time, which is really bad for them. We were able to give them access to that, but more importantly, we are able to give them access to building a bakery where they can cook food out of, they can bake bread out of, and they could sell it to the local communities around them and build money and economy for their local community, which would therefore drive them up over time and allow them not just to quote unquote learn how to fish, or sorry, not just quote unquote give them a fish, but actually learn how to fish. And that was really important because you never just want to give someone a handout. And also the person receiving the thing doesn't feel great. But if you give them an opportunity to go out there and do more and create more, it's just a much more longer lasting impact. So those are the things I love to do. My true philosophy is, and this has been the same philosophy since the beginning of time for me in business, is there's no reason to build business other than continuing to grow and scale and make money. But there's no reason to grow, scale, and make money if you're not going to have an impact. because there's only so much money you need to live in a nice place like this. There's only so much money you need to get a nice car. There's only so much money you need to go on the best vacations and support your family. Those things are important. But when you make an impact on humanity, there never is enough money for that. You always are going to need more. And that is just it's the best point of purpose. I always say there's 4 levels of motivation for people. First level is survival. Second level is material. Third level is personal and familial financial freedom. But fourth level is the hardest one to achieve, and it's the one that lasts forever, that you will never conquer in your life because it's so big, and that's purpose. And purpose comes through disseminating a powerful message to the world and being able to actually make a positive impact and change. So every day when I'm in the heat of it in business, I'm going through trials, tribulations, problems, issues. I always just go back to how big is my purpose? How many people are struggling, starving, suffering, and how much can I help? Like, dude, today, if I donate 30, $40, I can go and help a family eat for between 2 and 4 weeks in a third world country, which is absolutely insane to me. So why don't I do that over 1 million times, 5 million times, 10 million times? There's so many families around the world that are a lot less fortunate. And when you give back to them, it gives you more of a purpose to be able to work. And it gives you that fortitude to be able to solve the problems in front of you. Because you're not just doing it for you. If the motivation is just a car, if the motivation is just a house, you're going to be met with a lot of resistance because you're not going to have enough purpose to push through. But when the motivation is far greater than that, you're willing to do whatever it takes.
Handily change communities' economy too, because the hard-earned money that people spend on necessity, that we lower the cost now, that goes into the community, right? I don't want to trigger anything, but
Yeah.
I know that you're obviously the CEO of BetterEarth and CEO of the SolarCEOs and the Solar School, right? If you want to get your hands on some sort of a charity work where we develop communities, I would love to be part of that.
Yeah, man. Would love to.
So that the purpose can grow too. Because the thing is, like you're right. So we don't need a lot in being in the spots where we at. Like we got fortunate to be in US where everything is kind of normal to have, normal food and normal car and normal everything, right? But then you step back and the contrasts start to change. But it makes you appreciate it more, and all of a sudden, like the gratitude level goes up and the purpose goes up too. So
100%.
But yeah, Zain, I know you got to go. I appreciate you, man, on jumping on. We got to connect again and gotta run through this.
Yeah, man, I love it. And I'd love to do. I know we're short on time today, but I'd love to do a longer version as well.
Sure. Yeah. I appreciate you.
Cool.
Time,
All right, man. Well,
yeah.
have a good one.
Thanks, man.
Bye bye.